Hey Hazel.
Hi
Right.
again.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we were just chatting, weren't we? And we're having a chat today about the different dimensions, and we're on this ascension pathway, and we're moving from 3D to 4D to 5D, and a lot of people have heard those mentioned. So we're going to maybe not cover it all in this session. We might just stick with 3D, mightn't we? And we were just talking, weren't we, about defining what 3D is, and we've had this old world, and people talk about being in a new world and a new paradigm, and I'm interested, and I know many others are, in creating an accelerated pathway so that we're for ourselves in our own bodies, improving the quality of our experience, aligning with the new energies, and really just creating that, aligning with that peace and joy and the divine qualities and the spirit, creating that infusion of spirit in our bodies. And I was talking for myself at the moment. I noticed that where I feel intensity of negativity, whether it's anxiety or insecurities, or the legacy of the past, and I'm aware for myself where that exists as holding in my body, and I feel the compression and the tightness in my gut and my belly, and I know that if I get ahead of myself, which is the human I am, I often do, and I'd force my through, and I feel like I've got to behave this way in order to get the results I need and get done what I need to get done, and I in some ways separate from what's actually going on in my body, that it just catches up with me and end up not feeling so good. And the highest thing for me to do is the number one thing is remain connected with what's actually coming up for me and bring presence and spaciousness to it. And like we covered in our first call, getting the mind out of the way so that spirit can work with the body to transmute and raise the frequency, and somehow with that process of transmutation, creating a context of appreciation so that my enthusiasm is there, and I'm flourishing through the process rather than getting depressed and removing myself through it all, because the gravity of what's being cleared is there, and I know for myself, bring presence and spaciousness and stillness so that my spirit can touch it and work with it, and it can clear, if you like, and I want to feel good about that process as well. So yeah, that's part of the process of the shift from 3D, isn't it? And that gravity is the third dimensional reality we've been living in.
That's right, because emotions, which are like this to the body, are magnetic, and then we have a magnetic field around us, which makes that compression of any negative emotion, dense emotion, so powerful, because it is magnetic, and it's infused within all the organs of the body.
Yeah.
So that's completely 3D.
Yeah.
Completely a 3D human walks about like that. They don't know what to do about it through ignorance and through just no guidance from themselves, because they're shut off from that I am, fifth
Yeah.
dimension self, somewhat. That no one is ever shut off completely unless they really choose that, and then they are lost souls, but they too can be retrieved. But yeah, the emotions and the body work together in unison. So
Yeah.
when you start feeling that heaviness, it's compounding like a pressure, hasn't turned into a full-blown pain yet, but you can feel the pressure building. That is semi-physical, that is emotional, and it's starting to make its imprint more and more on the organs in the body, whether the brain, the head, the gut, your physical heart, whatever it is. And from that, illness will surely follow, as night follows day. It's given in the human world. So if that's happening to you, you're in 3D, fully human. Now, here's the thing with the 3D, the 4D, and the 5D. None of it is entirely separate. It's worlds within worlds. All right? Different frequencies of that world. So we wake up in the morning, we go out the front door, we step outside. If we are in a 3D level of consciousness, within ourselves and within the body, then we're going to see that 3D world out there coloured grey. Everything's depressing. We can't see anything anywhere. We don't notice the trees, the wind, the birds, nothing. It's still there, but because we're in that 3D lower consciousness, we just do not recognise it. We don't perceive it. And that is the majority of humans out there. They've got tunnel vision on a grey, hard day. They wake up with it and they go to sleep with it. So they then, when they go to sleep, they're going into the astral world, the fourth dimension with it. Right? So, and then they're going to be in a lot of battles because they've got this inner conflict going on. They're in this grey world. They don't know how to get out of it. They want to get out of it. Most people want to get out of it. They've got any form of sanity. They will want to get out of it. So they go to sleep, and in that fourth dimension, the astral world, those conflicts within their human mind, the mind-body connection, will play out in front of them, but they will be the main player. That is in the astral realms, which is the realm between 3D human and the 5D I am presence, the beginning of the I am presence being fully embodied in it. Okay, so nobody really talks about this fourth dimension, this astral plane, where all of our thoughts and emotions are made manifest for us to work through and work with. Now, the danger there is, if you're doing it from the human 3D coming up, not immersed and embodied in your 5D self, you are going to get lost in that astral world. It is huge. Remember, it's all of your thoughts, all of your emotions since you existed. Remember, it's all the thoughts and all the emotions of the other 7+ billion on the planet. All our thought forms. Now, all of our fears are made manifest there, but remember, they have no real substance. Whatever goes on in that fourth dimension, whether it's a witch's spell or riding on the back of the unicorn, it's all possible. It is the playing field for the mass consciousness. So everything is possible in that world, that level, that dimension, which is in us and around us, in our physicalness as well. Some people like me sense it all the time. So you've got all of that going on. Okay, so for example, with you, with your body sensations going on, and that you feel like a compression, a pressure in the body, turned into pain yet. So you're sinking, and you've forgotten because you're sinking into that veil of unconsciousness of your I am self. So it's essential to practice being in the I am persistently and consistently, so that you are aware that you have become 50% into service for yourself and other people, which is to be aware of who you really are. At least 50% of you is acting out that way in your life. Then you will have discernment and you will understand that, oh, I'm just sinking into my human self, easy, and it's easy to get out of it. Okay, so that's when you are really, really beginning to get immersed into the I am, fifth dimensional you.
That process of getting out of it is for me. I bring my sense of my I am, my fifth dimensional self, of my spirit, to my body, and I'm encouraging that infusion. So I'm just kind of almost stepping back out of my 3D human self, and I'm kind of almost going back into, for me, what's my sense of my divinity, and that spaciousness and the presence and the stillness and the no mind and the no thoughts there. And I'm encouraging that presence and bringing that to bear, and allowing what's,
as long as you feel it. If you don't feel it, it's not happening. It's just another mental container. So this I am presence, when we get used to being immersed in it, it's for me, it's like a cocoon. Like now, comes all around me. It's not saying anything to me. It's just there. Until I start, like we are now, you're asking me questions, or I ask questions of myself to myself, and it starts to, it's not channeling, you just start to be it more and more. So this is not about channeling the I am presence at all. This is about embodying it, and it feels like a cocoon. I'm feeling it more than I'm thinking. I am my I am presence. And you feel it, like now I just felt it come more into my belly. With that feeling of it is I just want to smile and all is well and everything's good.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah, even if there's dense stuff there, you're still able to still have a laugh at it.
Because you can see the bigger picture and how all of that dense stuff is just a thought form in your own mind, or you've bought into other people's beliefs, okay? You've taken them on board. Those beliefs are in your body, all right, as pain or joy, and that's duality. So they're still, and it's coming in, and you've bought into those beliefs from your own self, your perception of the world, because that's the level of your consciousness. Not everyone comes to this planet from a 50 and beyond level. Many are coming up 3D, 4D, and that's why the world is in such chaos. And this is why I really encourage people to get with the I am first, because they will not be able to navigate the fourth dimension in safety. Shamans and ancient peoples of the world have always traversed the fourth dimension. They go down into the underworld, they retrieve parts of souls that have fragments of themselves missing, and those fragments, where do you think they are? They're in the fourth dimension, usually in the lower astral world, which is almost subhuman. And those parts of us and others really are lost, but they still have to be retrieved. But a shaman isn't necessarily coming from the fifth dimension and above. They've just learned that as a 3D human, passed on through their ancestry and so on. Okay, so a shaman works his astral body. He's got two bodies, if you like. He's got his 3D body and he's got his astral body, so awake and close to him or her that he knows what's going on in those both worlds, the world of thought forms and the world of physical solidity. For example, with me, our fears show up like this. I used to have a fear of spiders many years ago. Big spiders. I was afraid of spiders from day one, with two brothers throwing spiders at me, whatever. But the thought form started to build in me. I was afraid of them. Okay, so in my sleep state, all of my demons, my biggest fear would show as a spider. All right? And that wouldn't necessarily mean I was afraid of spiders. It could be afraid of being left behind. But my collective fear icon was a spider. I used to really feel that spider. I remember being in the cinema once, years and years ago, when I was in Berlin, and I felt a big spider, bigger than a tarantula, crawl around my neck. Of course, it wasn't there, but I knew I was in the astral world at the same time as I was sitting in the cinema. That is not my I am presence. That is me being able to open up and be in the 4D world, fourth dimensional reality, astral world, knowing what's going on there with my own thoughts. To scare me.
And so
it's something beautiful. It could be a unicorn.
Right?
Unicorns come from the ninth dimension, but they project into the fourth dimension to help us to understand. So it's beautiful experiences, depending on what's going on and what fear you need to clear, that is the most heaviest, most dense, holding you down.
And I wouldn't say any of that. We don't need to consciously know how to navigate the fourth dimension. Wouldn't just say that part of our ascension is just about calling all of us back to ourselves so that we're whole again, and that we don't need to consciously navigate the fourth. I've never consciously navigated 4D, but I've done a lot of work around reclaiming every bit of me.
So when you're doing that work, that is 4D. That is it. That is it. When you're sitting down to do some kind of ritual or whatever, right? Okay, I feel as though I've got this going on in me. I feel as though there's a hole in me, or there's a part missing, and I want to reclaim it. Immediately, you're in 4D. Even though I'm sitting at this desk and we're talking about it, part of me is now linking to the fourth dimension with you and with me, with both our astral bodies, and I will navigate that to see what's going on with you. So it is important to know, because people get lost in the astral world in their sleep state. And if they've got big fears, they will get deeper and deeper and deeper into the astral world. They'll wake up in the morning really anxious and depressed, and they carry that through their waking 3D human existence. So that's why I say over and over again to my students, we get to the I am first, because from the fifth dimension, you can look down into worlds that are lower than your consciousness. But those who are in 3D can't look up to get there. And they get lost in it. And we call it depression, anxiety, anger, rage. People experience sexual encounters in the astral world, and it is very, very real. And these are people that are attached to people who watch heavy porn, who are depraved but look normal. You know, and we marry them and we live with them. It could be a part of us as well. Because remember, we don't attract anything that is not in us as well.
So and that's where
this is just the way it is. So it is very important, because you can get lost in this world of thought forms. And we need to be able to navigate it.
And part of that is that, like you say, the genuine connection with our heart, with our I am, and that's the co-creation, because calling on that and connecting on that part of ourselves, we're able then to reintegrate and to transmute and to raise our frequency, and for these
just to dissolve those thought forms,
stuff to be resolved.
But first of all, the biggest realization of all is that they are only thought forms. They have no substance. No substance meaning they don't have God in them. They are created from the minds of men. All these thought forms, even when you're, in the astral world, and you're having a really, really good experience, a really magnificent, joyful one, still a thought form. And that's not to say that, ascended masters and angels and these mythical creatures who are far beyond that, they do come into that level to help us find our way. But you've got to believe in them in the first place. And humans don't believe in all that mythical
unicorns.
But we don't put our faith in unicorns, because they, that would be, if you start, right.
So ultimately, we want to put our faith in our God self, right?
And the astral world is a huge, huge playground. We create the playground, and then we put ourselves in it, and it's a thought form. As you know how we love scary movies, well, I don't, but a lot of people love scary movies. Where do you think ideas for these scary movies come from? They come from psychics who, and the film producer latches onto it, or the film producer is psychic, and they make all these films about it. And the monsters that we see in some of those horrific films are like thought forms in the astral world.
So 3D is physical and 4D is always non-physical?
Well, we do have form, yes. It is physical in the way that if you and I met up in the astral world, you would be solid to me. I would be able to touch you and hug you, or push you away and be scared of you, So it's very real. In each reality, we have form and we are solid to each other. If I'm in 3D looking at the astral, they look like ghosts. Raise myself up for that to be solid, and I can be having a conversation and a communication with someone in 4D, and I'm as solid as them. We both know we're there, right? Now, in the 5D, it's the same, but we have a finer sense of life, all right? We're not as coarse. We're not as... we're still defined, but we're not as coarse in the way that we look, and we look younger because we haven't got the aging and the illness belief going on, but we still have form. The I am presence still has form. God itself has a kind of form, because God itself comes from the absolute. It's only the absolute that has no form. That creates God, which is kind of semi-formless. And then God creates all the monads, the oversouls, the I ams, and then they create us. All right? And they all have form. And when we're in that reality, we know we've got form, and we see a form that appears outside of us, but we know we're at one with it. It's quite difficult to, unless you have an experience of it. But if you can grasp this concept that I'm talking about, then you're coming from 5D. 5D means we can grasp these concepts while we're living in a human body, and we've awakened to see the bigger picture. That's telling you your consciousness, the essence of it is 5D.
Yeah,
but we're just sticking at 5D for now.
Yeah, and in that alignment, we're no longer living through the filters of our beliefs, and we're no longer living in that.
Well, our limiting beliefs, we still have beliefs, but the limiting beliefs, which mean people can hook into us emotionally and mentally in that world out there. We've neutralized all of those, because the I am presence, the fifth dimensional us, does not have emotions. We cannot be hooked into. That's why it's essential when we've come back and we're in this world to help humanity go forward, that, you know, it's our biggest saving grace that we don't have hooks and we don't have emotional density that people can hook into and keep us down.
So it's a sort of transparency, is it?
Well, no, we just don't have emotions. People don't understand that emotions are not feelings of the heart. Thoughts create emotions. They're from the mind. But because they have a strong magnetic field, we think, oh, that's a feeling. I'm really feeling that. But in essence, in truth, it comes from the mind, and it's the energy of the mind moving within the body. And we hold on to it, because we're usually afraid of it. It's anxiety. Whoa, I don't like that. We contract and we hold on to that anxiety, and it stays in our body. It's from the mind. Now, the deeper feelings of the heart, all right, are love, joy, peace, compassion, and so on. And when we live from that place, because we've neutralized all of our limiting beliefs causing the fears in our body, we've dissolved them, neutralized them, and more of us comes into the body, and we can face any situation and not wobble, because they've got nothing to hook into us. We're just not afraid. So, you know, and that fear, literally, I've seen the fear of other people go through me as though I was a sieve, you know, like full of holes, and that fear just whooshes through me, and I just guide it into the ground. Another way that I've experienced that is people have come to my home, I've opened the door to them, and they've just literally thrown all their dirty water over me, all their emotions, in other words. And that's me in the astral world, linking into their astral body where they're at in that level. But I'm human opening the door. They're looking at me, they're relieved to see me, or Hazel can help, Hazel can fix it, like in those days. But no, Hazel can't fix it, but they still throw their dirty water over us. That's the astral world. It's really, really happening. Only a thought form. So with that, I just used to let it fall over me, fall into the ground, bring my own light, love. According to how much love we have, is how much capacity to love, is how much light from God, not the I am, from God, can pass through us and help that person. That's the astral world in action. That is the fifth dimension in action through me in a very physical way. So we can see how we are multidimensional, fifth dimension and beyond, light of God flowing through me. I feel it like a fire hose. If I don't feel it, I tend to think it's a masquerade, it's something, an entity masquerading as the light. And the fourth dimensional world, the astral world, is full of deception. And that's why we need to understand that some of the light that we see in our meditations, which is fourth dimensional, is not necessarily the light of God. And we can go down a rabbit hole and spend years believing that that light was true, because we weren't immersed in our I am presence, so didn't have discernment. That is what is keeping the masses where they are. Like, for example, there is a true Archangel Michael, and there is someone masquerading, an entity masquerading. So what happens in the world? Everyone, oh, Archangel Michael will sever your cords. No. The real Archangel Michael would never do that, because that takes our power away. We have to understand consciously everything that we are and need to own and dissolve. And we need to do it from a space of either having a really good mentor who knows what they're talking about, or can take you, guide you to your I am presence, and you learn. And we don't really learn because it's just all there. It's like we don't have any gifts. They are our natural abilities to be claircognizant, clairaudient, clairvoyant, and clairsentient. They are our natural abilities. I've had those awakened in me for many years. That's my fifth dimensional self. People who have premonitions, that's coming from a higher level of themselves. They've already been born with that level of consciousness. They're already coming. So they've got a high vibrating body already, because they haven't come up from 3D, 4D, feeling their way from the bottom up. We've come from a call from God, because this human world has sunk too low. There are too many thought forms, too many off-planet programs, which are still thought forms that people are still buying into. And since the atom bomb went off on this planet, all right, and that then affected the universe, and that cannot be allowed to continue. So there are those of us who've come with a higher level of consciousness, and we're born and we've got a higher frequency body, but we still have to go through that human process because we're in it. We're in it because we're in this world, this earth, but we awaken quickly.
So is there an intervention because of the atom bomb kind of happening on the planet?
That is it, yeah. That's why we came just after the Second World War. It's a big picture, it's a big plan. So we started to have, just after the Boer War at the end of the 1800s, mediums started to really emerge. They were the forerunners, doing table tapping and all of that, mediumship in that way. And then it went on through the First World War, the Second World War, and we're refining it and refining it. And some of those people that were born in those years reincarnated really quickly, because they weren't able, because it's so dense, that they weren't able to keep the body, their human shell, as clean and pure because of the foods, the pollution, the thought forms aimed at them. They were put to death, these people. So they reincarnated quickly, and they've carried on the process. And then, I know I've done sessions with people who died in the Second World War as flying fighter bombers, and they've reincarnated really quickly to carry on their service to mankind. So those times were necessary. Those fighter bombers were of the light, but at that level of consciousness, that's the way it was. And we saved ourselves, protected ourselves. So we then go up to the early 50s when I was born, and we're still breaking down that density in the human psyche of those two world wars that happened so close together. We're breaking all of that down, but we have an innate sense of the bigger picture that we can't necessarily pinpoint it or write about it, but we just know to keep going with keeping ourselves kind of quiet, not shy. That's not a quality, that is not a virtue. Keep ourselves quiet until such time as our own higher self takes us through the process, as it did me. I saw many things, much phenomena from the fourth dimension, but I just knew what it was all about. And when someone is coming from a higher level down, they just know what everything's about. So if you come across people saying, this happened to me and I don't understand it, they're not coming from a higher consciousness. They are coming from the 3D, because the earth itself is transitioning, or has, to a higher frequency. We've now got to keep up. So it's opened up the brain, the psyche of humans, and they just don't know what's happening to them. They're going to start seeing ghosts even more. And if they're scared, you know full well they're coming from a 3D belief, but they didn't believe in life after death. They didn't have a belief in God. If they did, they thought God is wicked. You know, that's a limiting, really limiting.
Well, there's the whirlwind as well, because as you say, the frequency has risen so much that it stirs up all the density, and so there's that kind of swirling, muddy. The sediment at the bottom of the glass is stirred up, and everybody's in that whirlwind of, oh my God, there's all this stuff that I haven't known how to
realized. Yeah, I never so for example, let's just take the you know the image of, you know, a couch potato lying there eating crisps, drinking beer, smoking fags, watching TV, and suddenly, you know, imagine this, they're just thrown into this catastrophic, all these feelings, their true feelings coming up in them that they've suppressed gluttony.
Talking about, then I call it the wisdom to thrive, and like you say, there's a load of us that you could call light workers, and I suppose light workers have more of an innate, or everybody has their divine spark and that divinity in the core of the cells in their body, and we all have that same operating system, don't we? And there's some of us that have more of an innate connection with that, and know that we, and always have, incarnated to raise the frequency in some way, right?
Yeah, that's because and if you feel like that, Sam, that's that part of you, 5D and beyond, but we're just sticking with 5D, that is your essence.
Yeah.
Because someone will say something to you as a 3D human, oh, why don't you take these pharmaceuticals? A 3D person will love them, will love pills and potions.
Yeah.
Somebody away will say, no, hang on a minute, let's look at the ingredients for a start. You know, you've got that thing going on while you're transitioning back now up into your true knowing.
Yeah, and of course there's this mass awakening happening, and of course all, you know, and so talking about guidance again and discernment, you know, our heart naturally knows how to discern, doesn't it? And we are kind of returning.
Well, I am presence naturally. Let's not confuse. There are levels. Remember, there are all different levels to the heart. For example, someone who is first opening their heart will want to help people. They will want to heal people, and they might get a sense of what's wrong with the person. They might even get a guide come forth to them, you know, helping them, adding power and support to what they're doing, but they don't really know in a claircognizant way what's going on with them. So they've opened their heart to that first level. They really want to help people. That's the first sign. You really want to serve people. Then you jump on into your mind, because you're transitioning, remember, in your mind to think, right, I'm going to start healing, I'm going to start doing massage, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to start doing that. That's you in the mind trying to control that opening heart, finding a way out for it. So then it opens more and more and more. You feel bigger than you physically are. That's another sign you're in the fifth dimension already. You're just finding your way back to it so you can be human and divine at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And do you have a sense of what that blending of a more spiritual human being, the new human, as we call it, the new human, what the operating system for that is? It's very heart-based.
Well, it's all love. Love is the gateway to it, right? Love is the gateway to light. So love is, you could say, the divine feminine aspect of God, and the light is the divine masculine. Because I'd like to bring that up. I know I brought it up before, but this twin flame buzz that the world out there's got is a false flag. It's inside of us. So when we're transitioning back to 5D or up into 5D, we begin to get forgetful, disorientated like this, because our consciousness is changing, and we're really masters at it without knowing, because we're balancing it all the time. And when people say, I didn't get it right, I'm depressed, no, your fifth dimensional self is bringing you down to that level to say, look at this is a thought form, this is what you've got to dissolve before you can be even more immersed in me. All right, so You'll see ghosts, you'll have premonitions, you'll know what people are thinking. Nothing is hidden. So it's senseless to try and tell lies, which humans do. We've all told lies, and we all do it because everybody else does it. That's telling you you're 3D human, even white lies. And we all do it because it's in the system, you know. So you pick up thoughts, you'll have lucid dreaming, you'll have empathy without any of the drama. You won't go about saying, I'm a really sensitive person. You know, that's 3D human, because you know you're empathic, you know you can feel what other people feel because you're not separate from them. But because you've dealt with all that intense, compounded emotion, they can't hook into you. So it's very clear what is them, what is their stuff, and what is yours. Right? So you're empathic, but without the drama. You start to understand these spiritual truths. You know, you don't diss them. You're listening. You're awake. She's got a point there. That's Sebastian. He knows what he's talking about. You know, but you dip in and out to start with. So you can be 5D 1 minute, you know, really in your I am awareness, you're feeling good. And then something can happen in the 3D world, and it'll knock you off balance. And that's only there to say, you clear that up and you'll have more of me. That's all it is. I want to emphasize again that these fears and these terrors that we go through, you know, they've got a real grip. The astral world, the fourth dimension. Our thought forms that we've given more and more and more and more and more power to.
And so divesting them of that power, literally just seeing it for what it is, taking a step back and anchoring in that I am.
Yeah. And it truly,
breathing.
It's easier and easier. It's about being aware why you're breathing, what is in your breath. When you breathe, we're not just breathing in fresh air, we're breathing in life force, which is God. And you feel that coming into your body, and it makes you feel alive. But we're here to, you know, this series we're doing is called God Awakens in Man. So we have to feel it to know it. And that's it all the way, you know. So, and it feels very different to channeling when you're in 5D, all right? It's just claircognizant. You just know, and you're just speaking about what you've experienced and what you therefore know to be true. And when people say, oh, well, that's true for you, you know, that's another clue. They're in the human self. They're dismissing it all because there's only one truth. Only God has substance. Everything else is a thought form. Up. That's the truth. You know, you can dissect that and change that within your own perception, but it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the truth. The truth is, in this 3D world, when we come here, we come into gravity. We come into human emotions and human thoughts. We're not going to change that in that 3D world out there. All right, so all the actions then are based in love in the 3D world. We are here to serve.
In the 3D world?
Sorry, in the 5D world, sorry. We serve ourselves in the 3D world with a little s, you know. Who can I manipulate? Who can I intimidate? Who can I cajole, convince to buy this thing from me, you know?
Yeah, it's all manipulation, isn't it?
Yes, we've all done. And it's very, very subtle. Not all of it is obvious. Parents do it to their children all the time.
Yeah, I need to do this in order to get that.
They make them earn love. And I've heard that said many times. And that is just 3D blindness. And it damages those beautiful children, or it can damage them big time for a long time.
What do you think about the economic model in that context? Is exchange and fair exchange a divine virtue? You know, I provide the service, I give you this in order to get this. Or,
that's 3D manipulation. In the 5D world, my perception, my belief system of the way that I live is nobody owes me anything, and I don't owe anyone anything. Yet, I still live in the 3D world. I've still got, you know, bills, and I still need money for my opportunities. You know, I can't get on an aeroplane without money. But I shifted my focus big time, that everything comes from God. I'm immersed in that. So I would never take part in a lawsuit, ever. I would turn the other cheek and walk away from it, because then I'm dragging myself back. 3D human self. I need to keep what I've got. I've invested in it and I need to accumulate it, because if I don't have it, I won't feel safe. That is not 5D consciousness. Because we're here to help humans, and we're helping them transition, and we're living in that transition with them, we still have to abide by the rule that money is what we use now for opportunities. We didn't always used to, but we do now. Until that is dissolved, all right, we're going to need money to exist in the way that I'm doing and others like me. In the 5D world, there is no competition, there is no fear. So everybody is in service with a capital S, which means everything comes from God. We know that it's just embodied within us. And the 3D people that act otherwise do not believe that God is a part of them. They believe in separation from everyone and everything, keep what I've got to myself. But they'll make out to the world, you know, that they're not like that. They'll be what the world calls charming. Dangerous people charm them. Out for them. So, there's no aging, of course. There's no illness, because we don't buy into those limiting beliefs. So, 5D is pretty natural, organic, and we've come to help people. So let's talk about sex in this way, shall we? Like, sex and lust is a 3D thing, okay? You know, like women, like Madonna saying, I'm a material girl in a material world, and she would only go with men that were rich to provide the wealth, so she didn't have to lose her money. Total 3D. And with sex and lust and all of that paradigm, we use those, what should be divine union within ourselves, we use it to control, to appease. You know, I know myself, you know, I was really male orientated in my sexuality, and I knew that I was using it to manipulate the male that I was with, because I'm in a female body, you know, I was with a male, that was my preference. And I used that as the tool to get my own way, and I knew I was doing it.
Sure.
A lot better than somebody who doesn't own they're doing it. You know, and there's a lot of women and men that prostitute themselves to stay in that old paradigm of a marriage where the man, you know, was the strong provider and the woman was at home, the weak female nurturer. That worked in my parents' time very, very well at that level of consciousness, but it surely doesn't work now. So sex then is used as a tool, and the off-planet beings that want to trap us brought sin and shamefulness into that, mostly through religion. And that's how that got embedded in the psyche of the human mind paradigm going on. People who've got a lot of conflict around their sexual habits, they're in the fourth dimension, they will come across incubus and succubus energies, sexual entities that, you know, do actually rape men and women in that lower realm, and it's very, very real. But it comes from the level of belief in the human who's walking about awake and what's happened to them. So sex is used as a tool, and we're programmed with it to keep us down. Now, when you come into the fifth dimension, sex doesn't exist how it does in the human. You will go off sex in that way because it's a very, very coarse way of coming together with another human that is outside of you. Those of us that were here in Lemuria know this innately. We were always androgynous. We came to this earth, we watched others like the Atlanteans do experimenting and having sex with another body walking around outside of them. And I know within me, I was intrigued by that. Curiosity killed the cat, opened the door. and we started to experiment. So we came down in density even more, and we needed a base chakra to be able to come down into that density more and more. Then everything got too violent, whether it was mental, emotional, or physical, and we left the planet. It was just too horrendous. And now we're back with our harmony, our bliss, and integrating that and teaching people that. So sex at a higher level is done through the auric field, either by yourself or with another form, another person outside of you. It doesn't happen from neediness or lust. It happens through sharing
Sure.
Divine.
Yeah, and it's
because at that level, the divine is in there with it.
And it's through the heart, eh?
The highest form, most powerful form of creation.
Yeah.
And so that's why the Illuminati and others don't want us to know that.
Sure.
So sex is labeled sinful and shameful, and they bring porn to us. You know, we're bombarded with it. It's depraved, it's, you know, and people who take part in that know it's depraved, but they try and make out it's not.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to have this macho thing, men and women, of, oh, well, I'd better say I like it because I won't fit in and I want to fit in. It's all 3D.
But coming back to the guidance that's available as this awakening is happening, and as people start to realize that the way society is set up and what is available in society isn't fulfilling and isn't offering what their heart is looking for, the guidance is out there, and obviously it is met in response to a person's genuine call for awakening, right? And so there's the information and the wisdom is out there, and that's the wisdom to thrive. And so the guy, you know, to the extent that someone's call for awakening is genuine, is the extent to which they're going to be met with the wisdom they need to facilitate that.
Absolutely, and the key word is genuine.
Yeah,
you can't fool with this. You can't make out you want it or you really want it, but there's a little bit of you that, whoa, I'm not sure. You can't make this happen.
Yeah, well, that's, isn't it? We're brought back to our lowest, you've often said that to me, we're brought back to our lowest denominator, aren't we? It's like if there's just, you know, talking about those little hooks, if there's a little hook, a little bit of that astral human stuff unresolved, you bet your bottom dollar that it's gonna create the whirlwind that you need in order to resolve it or not, you know?
Yeah. And we decide what level of consciousness we want to show up with in this world. It's a decision. It's not a choice. It's a real big decision, because there's nothing wrong with any of it, but you can only see that there's nothing wrong with any of it when you're living from that bigger picture. And you see it all. It's just all a thought form, and you just wonder why we were clamped down in it and held down in it for so long, you know, eons of time. But that's probably another chat we can have, which is planet and implants.
Definitely, I'd like to have that chat.
Dimensional.
On sex, and you mentioned the light of the masculine and the love of the feminine, and that divine marriage and the unity and balance and integration. And obviously in 5D we have that balance and marriage of the masculine and the feminine. What's the light of the masculine and the love of the feminine, and how they come together in an individual?
Well, the light, in an individual, you have the divine masculine, which is the light, the creative force. You have the divine feminine, which is the receiver of the creative force. It nurtures it, it loves it, it takes care of it within itself. So for me, with the divine masculine, it shows up in my 3D world that I have the power, the God power, to create my own line of income, because it's sourced by God and it guides me there. I have that. I'm no longer looking outside of me for a man to provide that. And the feminine in me just nurtures Hazel and loves her more than anyone else on the planet first. All right, so that self-love, some people call the divine feminine the Holy Spirit. It's much the same thing. So my creative force, the part of me that knows how to manipulate the 3D world from God. And I say manipulate, I should have said navigate. Right? Navigate that 3D world, but from God, because it's divine masculine, pure light, like a fire hose. And then we've got the other necessary component, love, to make sure that the light is used in that nurturing, ever-expanding, receptive, beautiful, harmonious way. All right? So they merge within us. Divinity merges with that. That's the Holy Trinity. And that is what is so powerful.
Nice. Beautiful.
So sexuality is in truth divinity, divine masculine, divine feminine in perfect balance within us. And that doesn't mean we don't have someone show up out there like that, because we all want company, we all want connection, but we want it from that same level.
Yeah, we do.
Of consciousness. And, you know, don't accept second best. Best to be celibate until you, within yourself, know it. And then that door will open out there, and someone who is so in tune with your resonance steps in. That doesn't make them your twin flame. It makes them someone who is in tune with your resonance.
And it's going to be obvious when there's that openness and depth and honesty and
So always get to the I am first when you're awakening as a human, right? And many are, and they have no idea of the fifth dimension and above. And then from the other spectrum, there are those of us from the 5D and beyond, and we know it, we understand it, we can navigate it. That's a different aspect coming together. One serves, all right, the creative force of God has decreed that. One serves, and the other opens up to receive that service. So in a more coarse way, that's the masculine and the feminine coming together, but on a lower level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got your analogy,
It's all intertwined. Nothing is, you know, so clearly defined when you start out, because the worlds are like this, worlds within worlds.
Makes me think of the chakras coming together into one heart chakra.
That's right, exactly. You know, when we talk about chakras, there are natural chakras, there are unnatural chakras. You know, and some people don't have any; they just have that one heart chakra. Which, when we first came to this planet, when the Big Bang went off, we didn't have a base chakra, and we didn't have a sacral chakra. We created those as we fell in density, and we didn't need them because we always felt connected, sacral chakra. We always knew we were safe and we could not die. So we didn't need those levels of consciousness. Remember, chakras are levels of consciousness. That's another talk, you know. There's so much.
Nice one. Oh, wonderful, Hazel.
Yeah.
Nice.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye, yeah. Until next time, see you soon. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Finish the recording. Bye. Waiting for that recording light to go out.